Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I just watched Euphoria Season 1 and 2. Season 1 yesterday and Season 2 today. I somehow missed the whole Euphoria thing. I had heard about this actress, Zendaya, who a lot of people were talking about. I didn't know why. I didn't see the first Spider-Man film. I saw the second one because I thought Tom Holland was cute and I saw him in all the promos. I think I didn't see the first one because I felt really let down by the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man series, which I didn't even commit to finishing. So I didn't really go back to this one. But I did watch the second one and I enjoyed it. And I'm like, oh, so that's that actress everyone's talking about. Okay, I don't get it, but okay, whatever. She's big. Now, I already did a video about this. I was talking about it, but I mentioned a lot of the subjects and issues in this story by name, which means my video is probably going to be pulled or not monetized, or you have to be very careful about what you say on YouTube. So I'm doing it again. And also, I was a bit rough with my criticism because I do this video sort of as therapy and just talking about stuff, and sometimes it's just coming out as I think of it, and it's not very organized. So I'm going to try and be a little bit more organized. Now, this series is it's about a bunch of kids in high school, and it's beautiful to look at. It's very much style and emotion over substance and narrative, which I found really difficult because the timeline and the story and the narrative just switches to whatever comes next emotionally, not whatever happened chronologically. Oh my God, I'm going to leave that in because it's funny. I hope it's funny because I just look really stupid then, but yeah, okay. It was powerful on some levels, but I didn't really emphasize too much with the lead character and her journey of drug addiction because I don't relate to it. I've never taken a drug in my life. I've drank, I think, 3 times in high school, and that's it. I drank once because my sister's boyfriend got me drunk with some friends just for a joke. I drank a second time when my friend's boyfriend stayed at my house so she could hang out with him because her dad wouldn't allow it. And we snuck out, and I got homebrew from my dad's house because I knew we'd have it there. Yeah. And then the third time was when I drank another time. I was hanging out with my niece and my brother and his friend, and they gave us alcohol because they're just like, well, you're going to drink it anyway, was their policy. I'm like, well, actually, no, we wouldn't have been able to get alcohol if you hadn't given it to us, and I would never have drank if you didn't hand it to me right now. So that was a fail. And then the other time was just when I turned 18. People were like, you don't drink, you have to have a drink, you just turned 18, go buy a drink, you're legal. And I'm like, okay. So I bought one beer and had it, and that's my entire history of alcohol and drugs. I haven't had any. So I couldn't really relate to it. It was fascinating to observe from the outside, and I've always observed it from the outside. I always go out and my friends are all on their own, stuff. And I'm like, looking at it from the outside and just like, I don't get why you think this is a great experience, because I'm seeing the real experience and you're having a different experience in your mind and you're remembering it as something other than what it was. I actually saw what it really was and always found that as really fascinating and bizarre. Because how people don't get that, I don't understand. But back onto the show. What I found most interesting was the trans character and the gay characters. There was a trans character played by, what was her name? Hunter Schafer, who's a real trans actress and model. And the way they treated her was brilliant. It's not really questioned. No one cares. She's just she. And it's not even until the second season that they really even acknowledge that she is trans and talk about it. But it's obvious that it's not a secret, because at first I'm like, is this a secret? Obviously, Rue has realised, she sees her in her underwear and that, but it's not really discussed. It's not an issue, which is fine, but I was kind of curious of whether she actually acknowledged it or not. But then later in the second season we see that we do, with the character of, was it Eric? I've forgotten his name. So I found Nate's story interesting because he's this jock and they play it as though he could be gay underneath, but it seems to be more a reaction to his father's hidden homosexuality as opposed to perhaps his repressed homosexuality. But there's a great part in the second season, the last episode, in the play where they play up the sports team as being gay. It is brilliant. I was laughing and I thought it was absolutely amazing, and he of course stormed off. But that's part of the interesting element of the show is that it's very surreal, and the fact that some of the characters are on substances does explain some of the more surreal, theatrical, sort of very performative elements in the show. Like there's a musical moment with Zendaya on the street, and of course the way the play is done is beautiful and amazing. There's no way children in high school could afford to stage a play like that. So the sets, all of it is unrealistic, but it blends into the real life, and you see the blending of her version of their real life stories and the play, and it's just amazing the way it's done. But yeah, the real priority of emotion over narrative and story is hard to sort of process, because there's moments where you go from one year, one timeline to another, and I'm like, just wait, didn't that happen for that? And you just have to sort of let it go and just go over it emotionally, which is a big thing I'm seeing a lot in TV, which seems to be something of this generation. It's all about emotions, and a show like Star Trek Discovery, where every character is emotional and every story, every problem has to have some sort of emotional component or resolution. And it's just very interesting because I'm not sure exactly what that is. But what am I forgetting? I found the actor of Fezco. Did I say actor? The character of Fezco. His name, the real name, the actress. God, I can't talk. The actor's real name was Angus, and I found him really fascinating because he kind of plays it as slow. He did get hit in the head accidentally by his grandmother when he was a child, and he's got this scar from, I think, brain surgery or something from when he was hit. And also he's on a lot of substances, so he's very, very kind of slow and simple, but not stupid. And he's running this whole sort of business, and he's got this little brother called Ash, who is a complete psycho. And it takes a while for him to really establish just how much of a psycho this kid is, because he's been raised in this environment. And I really wanted him to end up the way he ends up. At the end of the season, I really didn't want, because I was afraid Fez was going to get killed in his place, that he was going to sacrifice himself. And I'm like, no, you don't sacrifice yourself for this kid. He's just going to go out and do the same thing again. I mean, it's not going to save him. There's nothing saving this kid, and nothing does save him. And I'm just kind of like, thank God. This fictional world is better. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to sound to other people, but yeah, I have a bit of judgment for certain groups. I mean, I was taught when I was young that drugs were bad and not to do them, so I didn't. It was really that simple, and I don't understand the people who somehow thought that they could do it and it would be a different circumstance for them. It never seemed very intelligent to me, and I have a lot of trouble with judgment on that, and I'm aware of that, but it made it very difficult to not relate to, but emphasize with the main characters and that side of the story, which is a huge part of the story. So I was just focusing on the underlying gay characters. Like, there's another character, and I think his name was Elliot, and I really can't believe I didn't check for his name. And he's kind of bi, and he kind of is friends with both Rue and Jewel, and he kind of gets involved with both of them. So I'm really hoping I got his name right, because I can't see an Eric on here. No, Eric Dane, okay. No, that's the actor's name. No, Ethan, that's it, Ethan, not Eric. I'm glad I checked that. But yeah, oh my God. And Maddie, she's scary. And she seems to be like a lot of girls now who are so aggressive and angry. And we all celebrate that as like a good thing, like women who act masculine, somehow that's an achievement, like there's something wrong with being feminine. That is something I find kind of disturbing in our current society, and it's something that's very much in this show. Zendaya's character of Rue she's androgynous, she's not remotely feminine, and she's very masculine and aggressive at times, and it's not really celebrated because it's part of her addiction and her messiness and her anger, but I do feel like that is something, and it's weird because there's always been this patriarchal sort of obsession with, you know, the ultimate feminine female and everything, and objectifying women. But I don't think we need to go to the opposite side where we totally defeminize women and make them act like men. I don't think that's really an achievement either. So there needs to be a middle ground where men can be feminine and women can be masculine, and they don't have to be men, or they don't have to be women, or actually gay or trans to actually be a feminine man. I find that really frustrating. I think it's actually really regressive, and it's being sold as progressive, but I think it's really regressive, because it denies who we really are and makes us has to sort of adapt some sort of caricature or some sort of exaggerated stereotype to just have the traits of the other sex. It doesn't make any sense. Men should be able to be feminine, have a feminine side, and women should be able to be masculine without having to be men. And men shouldn't be reduced, because there's this reduction of men if they act feminine somehow. I don't want to get into the heteronormity of misogyny of it all, but because I'm just ranting at this point. But the show was interesting. That's just, some parts are very over the top, but they really worked because you are invested in the characters. They do seem real, even though they're very over the top. And the production was interesting, and I meant to mention this up front, but the first season was done on digital, but it had this real sort of 80s, 90s feel to how it was filmed, how it was done, very retro. And the second season, they actually went back and got Kodak to actually produce Ectochrome film stock, so they could film it on film stock to make it look like it was filmed in the late 80s or early 90s and have that look. And I'm like, but this is current day kids. These are kids in 2019, 2020, 2021, because they didn't do this. They didn't really do a second season. This is really the first season, the third season. The second season was cancelled due to you-know-what. And instead they just did two specials, one that screened in December, one that screened in January of 2020 and 21, and then this season was 2022. So, and that was just, one special was just pretty much Zendaya talking to her sponsor for like the whole episode. And then the second episode was Jill talking to a therapist the whole episode, and then they just had some flashbacks, and she had more stuff filmed. But that's all we got for really a second season. So, but they consider those specials, and season 2 is season 2. I really think of it as season 3. But it was just kind of surreal because they really were going for this emotional sort of memory of high school they were trying to create and recreate. But they did it. It's like these people who grew up in the 80s and 90s are trying to recreate that feeling with kids from now. So it's not like Stranger Things or that where they're actually in the past. They're just trying to make it feel like the past. And it's interesting because it sort of allows you to relate to it in a different and deeper way than you would have if it was shot very much, of the moment, trying to be very trendy for the moment. Because it has this sort of timeless retro sort of feel about it. And a lot of the kids are dressed very 90s fashion because that's now retro. So it was very interesting. The feel of it, the music, although sometimes the music was too loud. I had to turn it down because I had to turn it up for the dialogue because they were whispering half the time, and they really could have balanced their levels a bit better. But I don't know. I'm being really picky and getting into the little things now. But have I covered everything? Cal was scary and psychotic, and I was fascinated by the underlying gayness of it, and his father. I felt a lot of empathy for his father. Now, it's unclear whether he is a something or other file in this, because it's unclear whether he knew Jewel was underage or not. She said she was 22, but she didn't look it. But I emphasise with the fact that he wasn't able to be gay. He came from a time where you couldn't be gay, and he missed out on that part of his life of what could have been. And I used to be very judgmental of older guys when I was gay who would come after me, because I was young, and when I first went on the scene. And I understand now that a lot of them didn't get to have that experience. They didn't get to go out when they were young and have those experiences when they were young, and they're trying to find that again and recapture that, or get back what was taken from them or what they didn't get to experience. So I'm a lot less judgmental of older gay guys now, because they didn't have it as easy as I do, just like I realise now, looking at these kids who are like 10 years younger than me, or more, that they're having a totally different experience of coming out and being gay and being young in love that I did. I didn't get to have it either, but I got to go out in my early sort of 20s and have that sort of party lifestyle, but I didn't get to have like the teen romance in high school or anything like that. I had no sexuality until I left high school and moved to the city. And the idea that you can have this in high school and there isn't the judgment. And I know there's still a lot of homophobia, but there's also a lot of acceptance. And you sort of have to deal with both. I think now kids, they have places where there are safe spaces and they can be out. But then there are other places where, other sort of people who are homophobic, and that's even nastier. And there seems to be this tribal divide between the two, and they're both sort of more than they were before. But so I found his character the most interesting and the most sympathetic, and also the most difficult because of the judgment for what he was accused of. So I'm not exactly sure what he did. And there were also implications about his son, but that just seemed to be his son's fear and anxiety, which comes from the vilification of gay people and that. So it was all very fascinating. And I've been talking for over 15 minutes. I'm going to stop. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. The only reason why I got into this was because I heard a friend talking about it who I sort of trust his taste. So I thought, okay, I'll see what this is. Everyone's talking about it. It was like a month ago, but I got around to it, and I'm looking forward to the third season. But I was trying to beat 16 minutes. I didn't do it. But what else was there to talk about? I think that's everything. I don't want to go into all the characters and all their journeys. They're all interesting. They're all complicated. Part of me felt like I was never this messy as a kid. I'm unsure if this is really realistic or not. But I think life is a lot more extreme and heightened for kids now because of social media, and just everything is just more extreme. So maybe it is like that. Or maybe I was just a really good kid and just had a really tame experience, because I sort of was aware of a lot of my friends having some sort of extreme experiences. So I'm unsure. It was fascinating. It reminded me of my teen years, but also sort of made me feel like I was sort of observing other people's experience. But I could talk about this forever, so I'm going to go. Bye.